So that's actually a great pivot into today's session in terms of closing rounds, pitching to investors, etc. So we had a bit of a brief discussion during the Jumpstart week around pitching, how to pitch, what are some things that you should add, shouldn't, etc., which Asma highlighted a bit during the in-person aspect. Today's session is going to be going more into details, so we're going to be touching upon a few points that was mentioned, but we're going to go into details, showing some examples, focusing more on the investor conversation aspect of things. So this is what today's session is focused on, and it's given by none other by Asmaa Naga, who is the CEO of Stuck. So she's gonna help you unstuck yourselves while
It's
you
really
give
not
your
what we do,
pitches.
but yes, thank you.
Yes, but again, I had to do it. It is not
Yeah,
what
yeah,
you
yeah.
do, but I had to
Like it's
use
a
it.
fun everywhere I go.
Yes, exactly. So she's going to walk you through the process, answer any questions that you have around that. As I mentioned, it's more focused towards the investor pitch and how to talk to investors and giving more real life examples. Asma likes things to be more of interactive. So at any point you have any questions, feel free to jump in. I'll be helping her with managing questions in the chat, raising your hand, etc. With that, Asma, handing it over to you.
Thank you so much. It's very good to see you, and I'm so glad to see lots of cameras and like faces. We're going to keep this casual and short. I want us to interact, so I'll be asking questions as we go along. Feel free. We will be like allowing you to ask questions as we go along as well. But just to give you some heads up on expectations for today, I know we spoke about pitching before. We went into, the order of the slides, the expectations during the investor's pitch, maybe delivery methods, issues and concerns that we generally see. Today, we're going to, one, look at feedback from the pitch clinics and the conversations I've been having with some of you in our one-on-ones, because a lot of questions came up that I thought, okay, let's actually do this together, especially for things that have been reiterated and recurring. Also, just some expectations on the pitch clinics for those of you who haven't started doing that yet or are in the process of preparing for those. We're also going to go deeper into the differences between the investor pitch that is coming up first and the public pitch that will follow. Also going deeper into, the structure, the timing, and all of that. And then some feedback on stylistic and preferential things that we want to see on your slides during the pitch. I understand that a lot of you have already started investor conversations. You've probably closed deals before, so it's not new to you, but just expectations that we can go through and like handling a conversation to see what is more aligned with Taqadam and the pitches that are coming up soon. So the first thing I want to touch on is some feedback from the pitch clinic. So Maryam and I have been doing a couple of sessions. I've personally attended a few, and some of you have been coming to me for feedback and for practice. For the pitch clinics, the ones that run on Thursdays, we expect you to actually pitch. So if you're signing up to come in and start a conversation about your presentation, this is what I think I'm going to do. This is not why we're here. This should happen before. I can help you prepare during our one-on-ones, but once you're actually in the clinic, we're expecting you to pitch, and we know that you're not ready. It's fine. It doesn't have to be, pitch ready for the investors. We just need to see you pitch. We need to see the stylistic aspect, how you navigate things. We want an early look at your slides, and then we can take things forward, fine tune and refine as we go along. So you will be pitching and you will be timed. You will not be sacked if you go over time. It was just to keep you in check. We are expecting to see presentations like actual slides, not Word documents with like a script that we go through together, because it helps us understand if you're going to tell us a story and we're looking at the actual script, I'm not sure what's going to be on your slides. Is it going to be too busy? Is it going to be too little? Is it confusing? So we want to make sure that we can see those as well, even if they're not 100% ready yet. We will fine tune as we go along, but direction really helps you get where you want to go, but faster. We also want to make sure that we know who's pitching, like who's going to actually pitch during the investor pitches. It's important to have your team there because just in case anything happens, they also need to be prepared, but a bit of clarity on who's pitching this will help. It would be really useful for you and for us, for you to come in with some pre-planned questions. Like while you were preparing your pitch, you probably had some questions running through your mind, like, is this the right slide? Is this how I should tackle it? I have two versions. This is what we want. Come in with some questions as well. So after you pitch, you have during the rest of the time, you have the chance to actually ask those questions, get guidance on specific things. So let's not wait until we bring everything up in the session. And then after that, you're like, oh, I wish I had asked that. So take a bit of time before the clinic and plan your questions. We would love to see responsiveness, which means that when we give you feedback, we understand it's not set in stone, but we want to see what you're going to do with this feedback. Are you going to throw it like away and just not touch it? Or are you going to do it differently? Do you have different models that you want to use? We want to see a response to that because the next conversation we have, we want to see progress. And one thing, sometimes you want to look at scripts during the session. If you want to do that, we're more than happy to do this. I can do this with you separately, again, not during the clinic. I love doing scripts. It's my favorite part of the pitch. I love looking at how it flows, and then we fine tune, and then we take something that sounds like a lot and say it in fewer words and playing around with the storytelling. This is my side of things, but we're not going to do that in the pitch clinic because it takes up so much time and it needs thought. Like we need to think about it. So you can book with me and we can do this separately. Mariam, anything you want to add here before I move forward?
No, that's basically it. So pitch clinics are meant to be utilized to support you as much as possible and to prepare you as if you're pitching in front of investors. So on the days, forget that we're your mentors, we're your Taqadam team members. We are the investors who are going to put money in your startup, and I want you to act like that's the
A lot
case.
of money.
A lot of money, believe us.
All right.
So in that aspect, just be prepared. If you need any further support, as Asma was saying, I'm also happy to meet with you guys outside of the sessions, more on one-on-one basis, and also to give you enough time because the pitch clinics are 15 minutes a slot. So that's not enough time to go into details. So it just highlights a couple of points. You get multiple perspective that you can work on outside of those sessions. And if you have not done so already, I see a lot of startups that have still yet to book any pitch clinic session. Please be sure to do that. A reminder, you need to book 4 sessions. The most important aspect, especially for session number 1, 2, don't keep it consecutive. So you book one this week and the other the next week. Give yourself time and space to take the comments, implement them, work on it, rewrite your script, meet with mentors on the side, etc. Because we have the mentorship clinics or the pitch clinics happening until April on a weekly basis. So there are a lot of slots. I would give yourself time, space them out around at a pace of maybe 2 to 3 weeks. I would say that would be a good progress. Later sessions can happen more consecutively. For example, between session 3 and 4, there are going to be less comments there, so it's easier for you to implement in a shorter period of time. I would say that's basically it. And then, Asma, handing it
Yeah.
over to you.
So one thing that we've noticed is that when you're preparing your pitch, and I understand this because I'm a founder as well, you want to say everything. There's so much, you believe in your startup, there's so much value there, and you just want to make sure that they get it, like they really, really get it. But that's not what you're here for. You just want to get them really interested so that they can sit with you afterwards. And this is where you go into all the details. So just keep that in mind. Otherwise, it gets really dense. And what's happening is that we're seeing founders pitch really quickly. So it's like you're on times 2 on WhatsApp. And that's just very difficult for someone to follow, especially if this person, like the investors, have been sitting there for like one startup after the other. At one point, they'll zone out. So just keep it simple. We want to look into the investors and what their expectations are. First of all, they need to understand what you're doing. And I think we brought this up before. If you're going to start with the value proposition being a bit diluted, they're not really sure what you do, everything else that you're building on top of that is going to collapse. Like they'll zone out, they won't really be able to focus because it's not based on any solid ground. Okay, lovely charts, great numbers, but what do you really do? So we just really want to get to the value proposition very clearly in the first couple of, we'll say first 30 seconds or like a minute max. They want to make sure that there's potential return on investment, right? So they want to make sure that there's scalability, these numbers add up, there's a good market, this is a team that we can trust. So all of these things need to be visible in the slides. You want to engage them. There's something that Miriam told me that I didn't know before was every 3 seconds by you, was it like a couple of more seconds? I think 10
Yes.
more seconds.
Yes. So every basically 3 seconds buys you 10 more seconds.
Exactly. So those 3 seconds really need to count so that you're able to retain the investor's attention for 10 more seconds. So it's like you're playing, it's more of a dance, one step towards the other, and you want to make sure that they're there and it builds up towards a final call to action. They need to feel that believe, not feel. They need to believe that you're the right person for it, especially for early stage companies. And when you're still fundraising for the first time, they really need to sense that you do understand your market, you understand the value proposition, you understand the problem and the solution. So all of this needs to be very clear in the slides and the storytelling. The narrative needs to flow right. And they need to see the risk mitigation factor because every company comes with competition and there's a lot of risk. If we're going to come up and say, yeah, we're the only ones who do so and so, or um, nobody does this the way we do, like there's definitely risk somewhere, and the investor wants to make sure that you're aware of that risk so that you'll be able to navigate it, you know? So being objective is really important. And they need clear answers, especially for the Q&A. So the period of Q&A is an opportunity for you to dig deeper and to actually respond to the investors' questions right, the way they expect. So going away, deviating, trying to give like top level answers that don't really answer the question because you're not really ready is not really going to get you a sit down with them after the session. So you just want to make sure that you're hitting the nail on the head. With regards to complexity, because I've been seeing this a lot, I'm pretty sure Mariam has been seeing this as well. We want to make sure that it's simple, really simple, even like at least for the slides. The slides should not be busy, they should not be noisy. If you're going to be speaking a lot, you want to make sure that your slides are simple, because otherwise it's going to be impossible for one person to divide their attention onto two things, read and listen. Like this is not how the human brain works. We want to make sure that it's really clear. If an investor is confused, the first response is no, like I'm not interested. It's not like I'm confused, oh, I really want to know. Like this is not the normal response unless he's in your industry and he's really interested in this industry. But if there's a bit of confusion on the value proposition, what is it that you do? Like the first thing they will do is like, no, yeah, I'm not really interested. I'm not gonna book a call. We spoke about the interest part. We want to make sure that we engage them. So the beginning of your narrative needs to like really hit strong. And then we want to leave them wanting more. So we're not going to give all the numbers and all the data and all the partnerships and all the nitty-gritty parts of the business model in the actual pitch, because at the end of the day, it's 3 minutes or 2 minutes. There's no way you can do all of that. But we want to generate enough interest and to generate enough questions that they can ask afterwards. You want questions, no questions is not good. So you want to make sure that they do ask questions. So just make sure that you're building towards something that gets them to want to ask questions and get them to sit with you afterwards. So there's this interest there. There are two pitches coming up. We've got the investor's pitch and the public pitch. And while you might think they're exactly the same, there's a slight difference. For the investor pitch, I remember when I did it, Mariam, let me know if there's a change there. You're in a room or an auditorium with a group of investors and you're pitching. They're all investors and they've got like a scoring sheet. So there are certain criteria that they're looking at, your problem, your solution, your demeanor, the way you understand, the way you navigate Q&A, like all of this that leads to a high score. And a high score gets you to become one of the finalists in the end. So what really, really matters is the investor's pitch. The investor's pitch is the one that decides where you go in your Taqadam program till the end, right? So this is where the scoring actually happens. You have 15 minutes and you're going to pitch for 3 minutes and you're being timed. As far as I remember, Raf used to sit at the back and she had those signs that she used to raise every 1 minute. So it's like a signal, one minute down, 2 minutes down, and then close to 3 minutes, she would also have a sign. So you're on track with your timing. You don't want to go over time. Otherwise, you're taking time up of your 15 minutes. Also, I'm not sure they will let you go that far. So you want to make sure that you stay true to your 3 minutes, and then the rest of the time is all for Q&A. It's not feedback. They're here to ask you questions. And they will ask you questions. Like if you've done a good job, chances are they will ask questions. One thing to, like just a tip, before the investors pitch, the Taqadam team will send you like a list of investors who will probably be there the day after or like 2 days after. You want to go through this portfolio. You want to know who these people are, what do they invest in? Is there someone in the same industry that you are? Because we've seen this happen before. If someone's in the same industry, you might expect more detailed questions in the Q&A part, so you need to be really prepared. So these are things that you need to be mindful of, so you're not taken aback during the session. It's the regular, so I've also added the slides that we're expecting to see. It's the regular stuff that we spoke about before. What is the problem? Who are you targeting? Why are you trying to solve this solution and why this problem, and why are you trying to solve it now? Like the urgency around this. Obviously, the value proposition, the product and the market, all of those things. But if we take a look, so one thing that's really, really important, you want to make sure your ask is there, and you want to make sure that your call to action in the end is there. This is the investor pitch. They have criteria, so you want to make sure that you tick all of these boxes so that they tick those boxes for you and you end up getting a high score. The public pitch is the one that happens towards the end of the program. There is no scoring there. There's no room for Q&A. You're only going on a big stage and pitching, clapping, and leaving, and that's it. So it's an opportunity for you to flex. So if you want to flex and you want to like create something a bit more creative, play around with it, this is where you can do that. But again, you're restricted to your 2-minute slot. So there isn't much room to get crazy creative, but again, there's room to maneuver because it's not like there's a list of like there's criteria that you need to address. This is where you shine. This is where you talk about your startup to potential customers as well. I remember from the pitch that I did, the public pitch, it wasn't so we actually closed from one of our investors came from the Taqadam pitch, but this happened from the investors pitch. The public pitch really helped me generate business. So some of the people in the room were people that could use our services. So you want to make sure that your services are clear. So again, they come up to you towards the end and ask you questions. There will be booths and stuff. If you take a look at the slides, you will notice that they're less than the ones for the investors pitch. It's not intentional. It's not like we don't want you to have an ask slide. If you're fundraising and you're comfortable having an ask slide, of course do it. But you're not required to have an ask slide if you're not fundraising. Also, I think it's the business model. There is no time in a 2-minute pitch to go deep into the business model, like the payment and how it's built and the technology, just a bit of a top level or a top view insight without really going into the thing in depth because there isn't much. And a lot of times the people in the room, yes, there will be investors, but some people will not be, technically able to follow with these things. So you want to make sure that it caters to everyone so nobody switches off. So that's the difference between the investor's pitch and the public pitch. Mariam, before I open the room for questions,
Yes.
anything you want to add?
Majority were covered, يعطيك العافية Asmaa. So just in terms of the investor pitch, yes, so the pitch itself, it will help us select the 10 startups that will receive the follow-on funding. But keep in mind, it also opens doors for you guys to have follow-up conversations with those investors for direct investment opportunities. Usually the number of investors we have in the room are anywhere between 30 to 40 investors from different entities, angels, VCs, regions, etc. So I would not only focus it on just trying to get the follow-on funding, because you can do a lot more in that pitch rather than just focusing on, I want to be part of these 10 startups. It's a conversation with an investor for a potential investment opportunity. So take that to your advantage because you will have follow-up conversations with them on a one-on-one basis afterwards. That's one thing I wanted to keep in mind. In terms of the public pitch, beyond, as Asma was saying, beyond just pitching to the public audience in person, we also live stream it. So you actually gain a huge number of audience of people who actually are watching who you are, what you do, etc. So it's more of a sales pitch rather than anything else. So it's exposure to what do you do as a company and how you're unique and multiple fronts. So not only from an investment perspective, but rather as a startup. So customers, etc. So also keep that in mind. Usually, live stream perspective, we've had 1 year we had more than 7,000 people joining us online. So imagine the amount of exposure that you're getting. So keep it short, sweet, to the point, interactive. You want people to understand in the simplest terms without raising too much questions. That's basically it. I see Muhammad has his hand up. So if you have any questions.
Yes, I was asking about the investor, let's say nature, or let's say that the background will be they covering all of our fields, because even if we do great, but no investor is really related to what we are doing, it will be useless in the end of the day. We will get general investment advice or recommendation, but not real interest. As I always face that as a hardware company, it's very specific. Hardware is not, I guess most of the people are not very fond of it, especially investors in our region. They seek more for services. But I think that that will be a very important thing for us to have investor covering all the spectrum of the attending startups, having interest in us in general to attend and
Yeah.
to listen to us.
Yeah, so we usually do try to have a diverse level of investors that invest in multiple aspects. Keep in mind, having an investor specific for each and every startup is nearly impossible because, again, putting them all in one room for a course of 2 days, fully focused, it's usually more difficult than it seems. But we do try to have a diverse level of startups that focus on hardware, software, stage-wise as well, earlier, later on, etc. So we do keep that in mind, Muhammad, but don't worry.
Yes, perfect. Since hardware, just hardware is there,
I
so
Yes,
think
we
last
do
year
try.
one of the winning companies was a hardware startup as well,
Actually, two.
too.
Yeah, two.
There you go.
Yes. So we do try to have a bit of a diversity in the room. Again, all depends on the availabilities, etc. But that's one thing we keep in mind. So don't worry about that, Muhammad. Again, if you have a certain investor in your mind that you feel like I want to invite them, etc., we do take that into consideration. Share that with us, their contact, and we'll try to reach out and see if they fit our profiles and if they are available to join us as part of the investor community, because we're always growing that. And if you found someone or met someone that you seem like that seems like an interesting profile, please be sure to share that with us. We also have a question from Muhammad Rafiq.
Yes, hi everyone. So my question is regarding the last point that you evoked, Mariam, regarding the investors that we can convey. So does them need to be operating in the region, or they can be African or French, for example?
They can, as long as they invest in the region. That's what we care about. Where they operate doesn't matter, but as long as they invest within the region, that's what matters in the end.
Okay, thank you.
All right, moving forward. We want to start looking at slides per se, so one by one, and I'm going to give you a chance to ask me questions because, again, this is not set in stone and it depends on each company and how they want their slides to look, but just general tips. So for the title slide, we don't want lots of text, right? It's your logo. You can have a screen. Maybe this wasn't the best slide to show. You can have a screen of your product, your logo, the name of the company, and a one-liner, or you want to have like a tagline. You also want to have your website, or your contact details. I would generally prefer your website, so people can, until you start, they can look you up or something if your website is ready. So these are the things that we generally want to see. I've seen when I've been like when I was doing one-on-ones, I saw some startups with the title slide that was full of text. It was over-explanatory. Sometimes there was nothing about the company. It was just the name. That's it. We just want to make sure there's a one-liner to generate interest, or at least for the investors to know what this company will be about. Like, what do they do? What industry is this? Going into the problem slide, and I think this is one of the most important slides. You don't want to overcomplicate your problem slide. You want to make sure the problem sounds complicated, but you don't want to complicate the slide itself. So we want to make sure there's a clear definition of the problem, the urgency of the problem, like why now? Why does this, like this problem has been there forever. Why are we trying to solve it now? What is the urgency? We want to look at the target audience as well. Who are you targeting, the actual segment, at least top level, so everything else builds on that. So for example, in my industry or in my company, we do content and translation. And when we do content and translation, if I start to talk about a solution that does that, for companies that are not content heavy, all they will think about is, well, I can just use ChatGPT, which is fine because they're not my target audience. So we want to make sure that you identify who is having this problem. Sometimes even the current solutions, what are people using right now? If there's a problem, they're probably resorting to some sort of solution to be able to do that. And what is the potential impact that this can have? Like if you're solving this problem, what is the impact of solving this problem on the people, your segment, your target segment? And your problem slide doesn't have to be one. I mean, it depends on how much you flow and how long your presentation is, but it could be a couple, like 1 or 2 slides, but you just want to make sure that you're timing them right. It's not overly text heavy. You don't have to have the title problem on the slide. So you don't have to have the title of the slide on each slide. If you do that, there's nothing wrong with it. But sometimes if you want to build a narrative or a flow, you don't have to like segment it that way. At the end of the day, it's a story. It should sound like it's a problem going over to a solution, going over to a product. Obviously, what I've seen again is like a title and a lot of text under the title, like subtitles and subheadings. There's no time for people to read your subheadings. You want to make sure that your subtitle or the title of the slide, like for here, food waste impacts everyone or whatever the problem it is. You want to make sure that this is enough. So phrase it in a way that is enough. So you don't really have to have like a subtitle or a few lines describing this title on the actual slide. It's really important that you're the one who's speaking and the flow of the design takes them from one point to the other. So like here, we're talking about a global problem, how much money is being lost or how much money is being spent, how this impacts the environment, the business, the consumers. So it's the impact of this problem, who it is affecting. So basically, we just want a simple slide, but a complicated problem. And the way you flow needs to show that, and it needs to flow with the slide. And again, just you can have 1 or 2 slides. Do we have any questions before we go on to the solution? No? All right. So going into the solution, the most important thing, it's not, yes. The most important thing here is we want to make sure that the solution is tied to the problem. And the solution, again, should not be very text heavy. The solution is not the screens of your product. This is not the solution. It's the value proposition. It's how you solve the problem. So if your problem was in 3 different zones, your solution, if it's designed the same way, it solves the 3 problems, it would be very easy to visually follow from this problem to its solution, from that problem to its solution, and so on. So you don't want to have different parts in the slide, a solution here with numbers, and then another one up there. So if it's noisy, chances are they're not going to follow. They're not going to listen to what you're saying. So make sure that you're targeting, like hitting the hammer on the head, the nail on the head. So this is the problem. This is the solution. This is how we're solving it. Why is the way we're solving it better than other solutions out there? How it directly addresses, this is the most important part. I think this link, the direct addressing is really important. And the effectiveness or early success. I've seen this with some of the medical bio companies, like sometimes you have statistics or data that you need to put here. I think this would be relevant in the solution slide because it gives validation to whatever you're saying. It's really all about connecting the problem to the solution, validating the solution, and then going deeper into the product itself. Do we have any questions on the solution before we move forward?
If the solution is
Go again.
sorry, there was some echo. If the solution is not that easy to be understood by individuals, like it's quite complex, can you make more than one slide for the solution?
Yes, 100%. You can have more than one slide, but just like an overall tip. If the solution to you feels too complicated, then you need to work on breaking it down so it's understandable to everybody. All right. So if you feel it's that complicated, chances are the way you will reflect the solution will be complicated. So for you as a founder, as you run your business, you probably know exactly how it's solved, right? So you want to break it down in a way that is easy for people to understand. It's not about how many slides you use to address the problem. It's not how many slides, it's how you break it down. And trust me, the visual aspect will really help. If you invest in a good design, the design can do 50% of your job. You break it down in terms of your storytelling into very concrete short points, and the design is the one that takes you from one part to the other. Does that make any sense? It's really not about how many slides you dedicate to the solution. It's how you break it down and simplify it.
Yes, I think I made so much text now. I'm trying to think of a design where they can see the flow or the problem solution. So I feel a gap between the problem and the solution slide. So design could be on, yes.
Mariam, there's is there a perk with the Taqadam team? Is there a design
Yes.
company that
Yeah. There is a design company that can help you with that. Also, we have design individuals as part of the experts page. So if you want to meet with Dina, meet with Wasim, that can give you like a visual feedback. They can do that for you. And if you want to work on it, you'll be working with Hani Jamal, which is the design agency.
Okay.
Yes,
But
I had a small meeting with them, but I thought of working back end first and then going to the perks. But who are the experts? Tina and
Yes,
Wasim?
so I would do Dina, Wasim are gonna help you from a design perspective. You can do Malak, Sabahi as well.
But
Okay.
also, if you're going to work with someone, it still helps that you are able to simplify the problem. Like they're not going to be able to come up with a design that makes sense unless they really understand the solution as well. So you need to be able to explain the solution to them. Because a lot of times we come with, like in our heads, we have an understanding of our solution, but it's not easy for us to reveal this or to relay it to someone. And it gets frustrating because you're not getting the visual aspect that you're looking for. It's just because you're not revealing it or relaying it the way you want. So again, it boils down to how you break it down to yourself to be able to break it down to others.
Yeah, clear.
I wasn't gonna do this, but Mariam was suggesting that I do like 2 slides from my pitch. Not because it's amazing or anything, but I think the reason why is the way we tied the problem to the solution to make sure that they address exactly the same things. So again, for context, the company is called Stuck. We do translation and content, and we do it for content-heavy companies. So the problem addresses that. So this is our problem slide. It's not very text heavy. What I usually say is, and I use this for sales as well. Right now, companies do one of 4 things. They either hire in-house translators and writers, but as a company scales, it gets really expensive, and these people need to be managed, and they're restricted to specific working hours. So companies outsource to agencies, but agencies take forever. You send content, you wait for a quotation, you need to get internal approval, you tell them to start. A week later, they send you the content. It's not in line with what you want to adjust, and you're not directly in contact with the translator. Freelancers are cool, but for content-heavy companies, they're not a reliable resource. You need to chase them for deadline. There's price discrepancy. And we all know that AI, the way it is today, is not customized. At Stuck, we solve these 4 problems. We provide users with 3 different journeys, either 100% human through our platform, 100% AI, Arabic AI that is built and nuanced for the region, or a blend of both. where you start with AI and finish up with a person. This way, companies are able to cut costs, generate high premium quality content, save a lot of time, and train their own AI models, all within a project management system. I'm going to stop here. Again, it's not amazing. It's very, very basic. But what I'm trying to say is that these are my problems. That's how I'm able to address them. And when I address them, that's the impact. That's what the company is getting out of me. So it's the result of addressing the solution. So
Question, Asma.
Sorry?
Question
Yes.
specifically. So, are you expected to have some kind of quantifiable amounts under each one of those four things? So you cut cost by this much, quality by this much, save time by this much.
100%.
not
If you have your data,
necessary.
this would validate, which brings us to this, where you have evidence of effectiveness. See? So if you
Okay.
have quantifiable data percentages, we cut costs by 30%, we save 30% of the transaction time, all of these things would add so much to your slides. 100%.
Okay. Got it. Thanks.
So yeah, so just the tying between the problem and the solution is really, really crucial to be able to build everything else on top. Now going on to the product. The product is where you can showcase your screens. This is where you want to put your mobile app or your web app, the different screens, how they flow. You don't have to have the sign up. Like I'm seeing a lot of people putting up the sign up screen. This is not what you want. You want to show, if I was using a different solution, what would I be doing? If I was using yours, how much easier is it? All right. So these are the features that you want to address, the key features that differentiate your product from something else. Because chances are there are competitors. If you're doing food delivery, if you're a food delivery app, there are lots of other food delivery apps. What makes yours different? The functionalities, you want to have your screens on there. So videos, we've seen a couple with videos. I generally try to steer away from animation, like with nerves and with stress and with screens and someone else managing the flow of your slides. I don't know, like it's a risk. But I think, Mariam, you were saying that for investor pitches, it's okay to have these animations, but usually for the public pitches, maybe steer away from that so it doesn't get overly complicated. Unless the video really, really serves what you want to say, maybe steer away from that. You also want to showcase the user experience. So the product slide can go up to like 2 or more slides. Again, you don't have to be speaking too much because we understand that there's a flow, the features, so you can have different slides to showcase your product. It's really all about what makes it more streamlined, what makes it stand out, the features and the functionalities. It's not about how cool your design looks. Mariam, you wanted to add something? I saw you unmuted. No? Okay.
No, I was just going on terms of videos. Definitely, if you're able to showcase it using still images, I would prefer that. Again, less technical issues, easier to manage. Usually, the heavier the slide, sometimes lags happen. But sometimes a problem is very difficult to showcase in still images, so they prefer to show some type of animation, etc. Again, it's totally fine for the investor pitch because we do know our systems. We're able to test things multiple times before you do it in front of the investors, double checking if it works, it's seamless, etc. For the public pitch, it's less the case because it's going to be an external vendor that handles the AV aspect, etc. So it's more of a risk on you, and you don't want to go on stage and you say, and now a brief 10-second video of our product, and then you click start and nothing starts. That's just a nightmare in terms of a storytelling aspect of things.
Yeah.
So the more you're able to avoid that, the better.
Yeah. Recovering is always more difficult than moving forward. Do we have any questions on product before we move on? All right. Looking at the market. So this is a slide that I usually have problems with almost like a lot of people. You don't have to have exactly the Samsung circles. Like it doesn't have to look like that. Portray what is useful for the people in the room to understand your market and your segmentation and who you target within this market. Like, it's not relevant to me if you're talking about like the global market. If you're addressing a specific niche, you want to make sure that this niche is portrayed. How much money can this niche generate for you? So a description of your target market and your segments is more important than having like the TAM, SAM, and SOM. You can have them, but a lot of people have those and then they have like other data next to it, so it gets really busy. Like, if I'm sitting there, what am I supposed to look at? By the time I look at those numbers and try to quantify and make sense of them and listen to you, like, it's not that easy. You want to make sure the demographics, like this is really portrayed well, the behavior, like how often, if you're talking about recurrence as well, this is something that you talk about in your market, and also the competitive landscape. Like, how many companies are addressing these? Are there big names addressing this? This will tie in nicely to your competition and your differentiation slide, but you want to make sure that this looks like a competitive landscape. An industry where no one is trying to build or compete is not a very sexy industry. So you want to make sure that this is something that makes sense, again, to your startup, to your market within your region. So the numbers have to don't go look at international reports and get data from there that is not relevant to what you're doing. Because if they start asking you about numbers in the Q&A and it's all stuff that you've pulled out of, I don't know, some sort of AI tool, you're not going to be able to handle the conversation. So make sure that you understand your markets and how they are divided, how they're segmented, and how you can address them. Any questions on market? All right. Traction. So there are two different kinds of companies. I remember when I was pitching the first time ever, I didn't have like good numbers. And I was sitting there looking at the other startups and they had like multi-million. And for me, I'm like, wow, like these are numbers that are crazy. Like, I don't have anything that comes close to that. So your traction, you want to make sure that you show growth. You want to make sure that you show need. This is what you want to show. Like, there is a need. People are making, like, using your system or your software to address a specific need, and you want to show growth. So this could be done in terms of financial traction, or you can look at like how many partnerships that you've signed, how much money you've generated for the companies that are on board. It doesn't have to be money that you've, like, your own personal revenue, especially for like companies. I was working with a company that does influencer marketing and all of that. So the money that is generated isn't like, this is crazy amounts of money, but this is generated for the companies that are using their solution. So you just want to make sure that these numbers add up. So your milestones in the period of, and you want to make sure that there's a timeline. So if you're showing a flow, it needs to show a time. Like, if I look at numbers that grow and I don't know if this is like monthly, annually, this is over how many years, I also want to, this is context. Revenue stream, definitely financial growth if these numbers are things that you think you should portray. The CAC and the LTV and all of these things, I've seen companies do that on their traction slide. I'm not really a fan of having this here. I think you can have this in your appendix and go into it if investors ask questions related to that, unless these numbers are really important to showcase the stickiness of, the customers on your platform, or your churn, very, very low churn rate over a really long period of time. So like there needs to be a reason why you're putting them there. And partnerships and collaborations, definitely, especially if the traction itself, your revenue isn't really great. So here we have two different models. So this one shows financial, and this looks a bit more like, this looks different. So you can do graphs, you can do charts. Just make sure that you're giving us a timeline. And is it a subscription? Is it a month-on-month growth? What sort of traction are we looking at? And again, remember, if I'm looking at numbers and charts without really understanding what you do, like, they won't make much sense. They need to build on the value proposition so it completes the story. Yes, let's start with Mohammed Rafi.
Yes. So,
Yes,
Mike, what? Okay, you go, Mohammed. It's okay.
thank you, Mohammed. My question is regarding the numbers. Do we need to because there are two different way to present. Rather, we present the growth or the actual number. But if my question is, do you have preference between the two options? And if I would like to just present the growth, is it mandatory to give some numbers regarding
I
the traction?
personally don't think there's a specific way you should do it. I think do what's better for your startup, what puts your startup in a good light. Okay, if the month-on-month or annual growth looks better than the actual numbers, put the growth. If your numbers look better, put your numbers. So put what makes you look stronger and more successful. And then as they go along in the Q&A, if they break it down, again, you can have an appendix slide and go deeper into things. But if you're pitching, especially if you're pitching a high-level pitch, it's still your initial pitch, right? With investors, nobody listens to a pitch and I would hope that this happens and writes you a check immediately. But we see people, the pitch is there to get them interested and to ask you questions. So just put the numbers that are important for these people to know that you are generating growth. There's scalability, there's a need, people are using your solution. So whether it's financial or month-on-month growth or whatever system you have, as long as it serves the purpose of showcasing you in a positive light, then have that. But also, you need to know your numbers, because if they ask you later, you need to have your numbers somewhere.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, can I
Yes.
have my question?
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So
Go.
if we have a sort of multiple products and services, and it's going to be a bit confusing for audience to get the whole image of what we're offering. Maybe the business model is a bit not complicated, but diversified. How can we best?
This is a question that you need to address early on, not in the traction slide. This is a question that you need to address at the very beginning. What narrative am I building? What am I showcasing in this? If you have multiple solutions, are they serving a specific umbrella? This is what you talk about. You don't need to go deep into, for example, at Stuck, we don't do just translation, right? We do there's so much. We do research, there's editing, there's a lot that we can do, but I don't go into every single service, or we do API integrations. I said nothing about API integrations. So these are things that you can go deeper into, but you need to look at the overall value proposition. It's what value proposition are you showcasing? So don't overcomplicate. And the answer to this question should not be here. It should come very, very early on when you're talking about your problem and solution. So you need to make a choice. Mariam, do you have something to add here?
No, that's basically covered in terms of numbers and details. So all good to go.
Okay. The differentiation or the competition slide. I remember I was sitting in the room when this company was I want this company's designer, get us his number. They did it really nicely. They had two slides when they were talking about competition. The first slide didn't have this box on top, so it only had the companies that were addressing these problems, like the document processing, identifying. I think they do face intelligence, and then slide number 2 is how they overlap all of these companies. So it doesn't have to be, the X or the cross where you have different companies addressing certain axes. It doesn't have to look like that. It could visually be made a bit more interesting. A couple of things, because I've seen this again firsthand. We cannot not have any competitors. This does not make sense. So yes, you might not have any direct competitors, but you probably have indirect ones. Off the top of my head, for example, with Aya, they have AI trending for abayas and all of these things. They might not have competitors that do exactly the same thing with the AI intelligence and all of that, but there are souks and markets that people go to, which is indirect competition, right? So we can't be the only people. Like they've done it beautifully on their slides. I think they did it really well. But what I'm trying to say, and I gave the example because we always have a competitor somehow. It might not be a tech competitor, but there is a competitor. So we want to make sure that this is showcased as well. We don't say we're the only people who do this. So the competitive landscape analysis is really important. The unique selling propositions. What are you selling? Your comparison chart. There are lots of ideas that you can find online. You don't have to be restricted to the most common ones with the ticks. And again, the more streamlined and visually smooth it is, the more able we will be to see where you overlap or where you stand out. If it's just too much and too many logos and too many companies, it's going to be very difficult for us to identify. I've seen companies talk about barrier to entry for other companies, like for example, if they have competitors, but they are addressing a specific niche or a specific market, this company is really strong and they're really good, but this is not their niche. This is not where they want to go. Sometimes barriers to entry could be something that you can say, maybe not put on your slide, but also address. Anything you want to? Yes, Rida.
I think what would be the biggest mistake founders make when talking about competitions or competitors?
Are you asking me?
Yes. I mean, what would be the biggest mistake we need to avoid when we talk about competitors?
I have one,
Yeah.
which
Okay, go ahead.
who are your
Yes.
current competitors? I don't have any competitors at the moment.
Yes,
That is
right.
your biggest mistake. Because there's no such thing as no competitors. You can have direct and indirect competitors. And even if you don't have one competing with you doing the same exact things, you have someone competing with you indirectly, or people who could go into your market sometime in the future. So it's always good to understand the market and do like an analysis of who could potentially go into your market, expand into what you're doing. That's where indirect competitors come into play.
Yeah, we're the only people who do this, or we're the first people to ever do this is not great because we're the first people that will like second, third, fourth will come eventually, you know? So yeah, I think these are the two. Yes, Mohammed Rafiq.
Yes, Asma. I have a question regarding the competition and the market because for me they are related. So, as we are a French company operating in Tunisia too, and now operating in Saudi, do we put the list of competitors that we have in the several locations, or do we choose to focus on the Saudi market, for example? At least for this exercise.
I think the market that you've addressed, and you probably have a success story in your current market. So this needs to be showcased because what you've done and how you've succeeded in your current market will be mimicked in the next market that you're trying to expand into. So definitely a bit about your current market and you know how your share of that market and what you've done. And then they need to see your understanding of the region of this market that you're expanding into. So I remember seeing this with I'm having problems saying the name. I'm not sure it's right. Versuvio, the company that does fertility. Are you guys here?
Vitruvian.
Our company, yeah, Vitruvian. Yeah.
Yes. They did this really well because they come from a different market and they had like in their market slide, maybe we can share that later. They had their own market and what they've done with this market. And then they had like the number of clinics in Saudi, the number of hospitals that they can sign partnerships with. And so it could be a reflection of both. And I think this was done really well.
Okay.
Does
Happy
that
to
answer
see
your
it.
question? Yeah. All right. Also remember that you're pitching in Saudi with Taqadam, which is all about how you're adding value to the community here. So they want to see your understanding of this market. How are you going to be of value to this specific market? Yeah, it's great what you've done there. We want to make it known, but we want to see how you're going to take that success and reiterate it or use it in the current market.
Because it's truly all about to add there how scalable your product is, not only within a specific region, but also internationally, which includes Saudi and even beyond. People want to see that, okay, contract slab, is it only going to grow in Saudi and become obsolete, or is there potential to it's a model that can be modified and implemented worldwide? So you had some success in Tunisia and France, and now you're growing into Saudi, and this model can even grow beyond that. It's all about scalability and growth.
Your teeth slide. I've seen so many different models. I've seen a lot of people write a lot of text under the names of the people, like their experience, how many years they have been in the market, previous success stories. This text with everything else on the slide would get really, really small. There's no way, especially that the team slide is usually towards the end of your pitch. You're rushing through it, yeah, because you really want to get to the ask. That's where you want to anchor, and then your call to action. So your team slide needs to be fast. So the pictures, the names, you don't have to have everyone on the team, the leaders, the people who are directing your company towards the North Star. This is what you want to make sure is there. The advisory board or commitments, I think, and this is a personal preference, Mariam, let me know what you think. I think if these people are not known to the market or to the room that you're pitching within, I don't think you need to have them on there. If I sit there and look at pictures of people from your own industry, you come from a completely different market. We don't know what significance this name is to your industry, or like how big they are. I don't think you need to have them on there. Like if they're relevant to this community, to this ecosystem, definitely have them on there. But if they're not, even if they're great, maybe not.
100% agree. 100% agree, Asmaa, because again, these additional faces are adding to your check of verification, you could say. So if they don't spark that to the listeners, I would remove them altogether. Again, you can add them as part of the appendix. For example, if the advisor is a more technical aspect, so they're adding a technical point of view. If someone asks you like a technical question and wants to know who is in your team that manages that aspect, you can pull up the appendix side and showcase that profile and their experience, etc. Beyond that, I wouldn't add it as part of the team slide because again, the slide is basically shown for maybe 5 seconds max. So you don't want to overwhelm them with so much information that they don't extract who the main team members are.
I would also say you want to make sure that you have someone from your tech team on your slide. So if you're CFO and CEO and CMO, but you're a tech company, like who is handling your tech? You want to make sure that tech exists on your team slide. You don't want to have so much text on there. And I think the best way to showcase previous experience is the logos of the companies where they used to work. So these should be self-explanatory. They're very visually appealing. I can look and say, yes, this person worked at Amazon, this person worked at Uber. If you are not the first, like a first-time founder, you don't have to write that on the slide. You can actually say it. We come from like we're previous founders or like we're serial entrepreneurs and so on. The ask slide, you want to make sure you have an ask slide, especially if you're fundraising. It's part of the criteria for the investor's pitch. So don't forget that. All of the story is to anchor onto your ask slide because this is why you're talking to investors. The amount being raised needs to be a specific number, not a range. I've seen ranges. You don't want a range because it means that you don't know the value of your current round and the valuation of the company and like how much am I getting if I invest. How are you going to allocate your funds? You don't have to go deep into every bit of how you do that, but you can do percentages or like specific segments of this amount is going towards team, the other is going towards, I don't know, marketing and so on. How are you going to allocate the funds? Sometimes they want to look at milestones, like what are you going to achieve with this? So if you're not doing it in terms of how I'm allocating it, I can say this money will help us do X, which is, for example, a tech feature that is crazy important. So how are you achieving a specific milestone? Yes, I can see a question, Joanne.
Asmaa, a question. So the ask shouldn't be partly, we would like to be part of the 10 companies, no, right? Not at all. Don't even mention it. The ask is we're raising. Okay.
Your pitch is your ask.
Yeah.
If you want to be part of, like, if you want to be one of the 10 winners, you work on your pitch. That's your ask. That's your responsibility.
Got it.
You don't ask that.
Yes.
Because you're
So
asking investors, right? You're not asking the Taqadam team.
Yeah.
exactly. So keep that
Yes.
in mind. I don't want you guys to get hung up on the $100,000 because again, that's a small amount of what other aspects you can get. The people in the room can open so many doors for you beyond the 10,000, 10,100, what is it?
100,000.
100,000. $100,000.
Yeah.
So they could be potential partners, can open doors with potential customers, they could invest in your company. They can open so many doors and you don't want to get stuck on only that because I would even say that's 5% of the opportunity that you're getting out of that day. And I don't want you to get hung up on that. I want you to talk to them as if you're asking for opportunities from these investors directly and forget that you're part of Taqaddam on that day. You are now in front of a panel of investors that you're looking for an investment opportunity. That's it.
Yeah. Closing one deal from these investors would get you so much more than the 100K, right? So yeah, this is where you're fixated. Rida?
Yes. Is it good practice to mention for the ask how much the percentage or the value of the company, or just asking?
I wouldn't recommend that because
Yes.
valuation is such a subjective thing. It lends itself to a lot of scrutiny. Like, how did you value yourself? What did you use? This other company that does the same thing is valued differently. Like, you open the door to a lot of conversations that is not directed at your actual product. You want people to ask you about your product and why you're fantastic. You don't want them to ask you, why are you valuing yourself this much? Like, do you watch Shark Tank? I see this happening all the time on Shark Tank, especially the Arabic version, the one in Egypt. Like, people come in and they start talking about valuation, and the entire conversation is now about valuation. You don't want to go there. This is a conversation. So if someone asks, this is something you tackle with them after the pitch. You say, I'll have a chat with you afterwards. I'll walk you through the valuation and the commitment. Oh yeah, one more thing, commitment. For the ask slide, if you have commitment from other investors, you want to make sure that you put it here because it shows that someone believes in you. And I hate to say that, but there's this herd mentality with investors. If someone says yes, everybody says yes. Not everybody. If someone claps, more people clap. So if you do have commitment, especially if it's a good name, you want to make sure that it's there on your ask slide. And then your closing. We don't want thank you slides, please. Thank you does not add any value to your story. We all know that it's a thank you, but you want them to do something. Either they book a call with you so your QR code could be your Calendly, so they book a call with you. If it's a public pitch and you want people to try out your app or to see the journey, it could be like a link to a demo or request a demo or even getting their details so you can send sales emails. Like there needs to be something, a call to action in the end. You can't build a story without really culminating into an action towards the end. And also your contact details, definitely. So your email, if the QR code is not here, I would say both. If your QR code is your email or your contact details, I would still have your email on the slide. Mariam, do you want to add something here for the call to action or the closing?
No, that's basically it. Also, you want to leave them with something memorable that people want to connect you with. So whenever they hear this word, people just remember your company. It could be something that it could be your tagline, it could be whatever it is. I would say just a word or a sentence that can help resonate within people's mind that connects them to your company and always remember you moving forward is a great closing.
I would also say mention the name of your company, like say it, actually verbally say the name of your company. So it's like they close with this, like it stays with them. This is the name of the company. It helps a lot. It's a good reminder. I think this is it for the slides. The last thing I wanted to get into is the appendix and how important this slide is. It is really important to have an appendix. It doesn't have to be so well designed. You don't have to spend too much time working on the design, but it has to have the data that you expect the investors to want to know and that you might want visual assistance while you're explaining it. For me, I'm terrible with numbers. Off the top of my head, if someone asks me anything that has to do with data, I get it all wrong. So if I want to talk about numbers, I would have an appendix with these numbers. I would look really cool if I pull it up and look and start reading from the slides and telling them all the numbers. It's legit. I won't get flustered. So your pricing, because when we talk about the pitch, we never really go into pricing. We go into revenue model or business model, like, is it subscription based? Is it a one-time payment? Like how, is it commission based? How this is done? Yes, we go into this, but we hardly ever have prices on there. We don't recommend having prices unless they serve a specific purpose. But if someone starts asking you about your pricing, this is when you can go into the appendix, pull up a slide that explains how your pricing model works. Again, the business model in more detail, some tech details on the features. This is where when I think one of you was asking me about different products and services within the company. So this is where we go deeper into these things. You don't want to talk about everything throughout your pitch, but if you want to address more nuanced services that you provide, this is where you can do that. For me, because my company overlaps really heavily with ChatGPT, and when I started pitching the first time I pitched, it was in the era where everybody was talking about ChatGPT. It was like the elephant in the room. This is the question that everybody will ask me, so khalas, I know. So if I'm not prepared with an answer, that would be very stupid. So I would have my slide on the difference between me and someone else, or those companies that you're constantly being compared against. This is where you can pull up a slide like that to support you. You want validation. This is the one I was talking to you about, where you do your homework. Who are these investors? Do they have a company that is like a direct competitor to you? Because at that point they will go deeper into nooks and crannies, and you want to make sure that you are prepared with business model, real data. Again, this ties in nicely with the common concerns. So all the questions that you generally are asked in the real life investment conversations you have those in your appendix. So every time someone says something, it's easy for you to pull up a slide and you're comfortably explaining with something supporting you in the background. You can also use those in the conversations you have after, when they book a call with you. These are already there, so you can just pull them up and start talking. It really helps. Any questions?
Will the investors list be shared with us prior to the pitch, so we have an idea who's who, and accordingly we can pitch?
Yes, we will.
Okay,
We usually will
amazing.
try to share it a week before, but keep in mind, as we come closer, sometimes we have people who cancel, some people who are
Of
joined
course,
last minute. So we'll
absolutely.
share with you the majority of the list at least a week before. That's what we're trying to do. But always be ready for anything, because you never know.
Fair,
Yeah.
fair. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
no worries.
I think I'm done on my end. Mariam, is there anything else you want to discuss before we close?
No, I think mashallah tabarakallah Asma, you covered everything. يعطيك العافية. So again, just leaving the floor open in general. If you have questions on Taqaddam's pitch or pitching to investors in general, how to structure your pitch deck, again, let us know. We're happy to support you guys. And if you have not done so already, book your pitch clinic slot. Because again, what if you don't end up booking, what ends up happening is we have to run after you guys to book. So that's extra work for us. So please be sure to book and save us the effort. Because again, the pitch clinic is truly made for you guys and made to support you guys and make sure that you're as prepared as possible when you pitch in front of investors or pitching in front of anyone. That's the main aspect of this, because it's not only meant for the Taqaddam pitch, it's for your pitch when you're pitching to other potential investors, other potential customers, etc. So it's a service that is utilized beyond just the showcase. So always keep that in mind and let us know how we can support. Just reach out, let us know if you want to meet on one basis. Happy to do that. Amazing mentors and experts on the page. Feel free to do that. Again, all other mentors beyond your lead mentor, if you don't know already, are open for you to book. So you don't need to only stick to your lead mentor, etc. Another good action item as well. All the Taqadam public pitches, not investor pitches, so it's more for the public pitch, over the last maybe 4 or 5 years are posted on YouTube. So if you Google Taqadam Showcase and you want to see the previous startup pitches, get some ideas, etc., you can see all of their 2-minute pitches available online on YouTube. So it's more of the sales pitch, so you can get an idea of the storytelling, not much in terms of the ask or the financial aspect of things, but can give you a general point of view of slide structures, storytelling, etc., body language moving forward. You can see a lot of examples. Some have amazing pitches, including Asmaa. I still say you have one of the best pitches. You don't like to say it, but highly recommend watching hers. And others among those from the portfolio. That's a great reference for
One
you
thing I
guys.
would add while you're watching these pitches, just keep in mind that these pitches were not the deciding factor for the winners. The winners were decided a long time before that, after the investors pitch. So because if you're trying to build criteria or try, because this is what I did when I was looking at them when I was doing this, I was looking at the public pitches and I was trying to see, like patterns, like what was in common between all of those winners that I can do. But like the winners had nothing to do with the public pitch. It was the private pitch that actually got them there. So just keep that in mind. It's the storytelling, it's the showcase, it's the body movement, it's how you present, because it's very different from the investors one.
Yes, a great also tip that I always like to say, try to pitch in front of others as well. So sometimes they see things that you might not necessarily see. You can record yourself as well, so you can notice a lot of things that you may be doing or saying that you might not realize as you're doing them. So just watching yourself back, seeing the script, how it flows, does it make sense when you rewatch it yourself, etc. Usually that helps the most. And also practice, practice, practice. Truly. Usually pitch practice startups do a minimum of, I would say, 50 hours of pitching before they're reaching to the point where you can memorize it in your sleep. And I would say give yourself that time, truly, because practice does take you there in the end, I would say.
I have a question.
Of course, Amr.
Hello. Is the investor pitch the only qualifier for the public pitch, or
No,
throughout the program qualification?
it doesn't matter. So again, you're all stuck on the qualifications. Also, the word winner, I don't like to get stuck on that because there's no winners and losers. It's not a competition. Literally, it's just startups who will receive follow-on funding, which is half of you. You're 20, 10 of you will receive follow-on funding. Doesn't mean that the rest are no longer part of the portfolio. All of you are considered part of the portfolio and get access to all of our services post-graduation. You're still considered a Taqadam startup, whether you get the 100K or not. Keep that in mind. You're part of our communication, you're part of our services, you're part of everything. In terms of who pitches in the public pitch, all of you pitch in front of in the public pitch as well. So both aspects, all of you are there because all of you are Taqadam startups.
So all of us are pitching and investors and the public one?
Correct. There's no qualification at all.
Okay.
Yeah. Halas, you've made it this far. I think you've been through a lot of torture already from us with the multiple stages. So you're in the stage of halas, you're part of Taqadam, so don't worry about it.
Thank you.
All right.
Perfect. With that, if you have any final questions, I'll remain here for a bit. If you want to have like more one-on-one conversations, I'll be here for another maybe 2 to 3 minutes. Beyond that, thank you, Asmaa, for spending the last hour and a half approximately on pitching, etc. Truly appreciate all the support. For the startups, please feel free to book with her directly via the mentors page. She has her availabilities there to book directly. We have other mentors that can support you in terms of pitching as well and storytelling. Just look at the tags and their expertise and book accordingly. And we're here to support. So if you have any questions for me personally, Taqadam team, etc., you know where to reach us. And we wish you guys a great rest of your day.